Hello and welcome back to our tutorial series on how to use GreenScenario. Now that we have established a first connection of nodes into our network of components, let's have a closer look at the dashboard over here. So it is connected to the engine component and there is a dedicated dashboard options subtab. So if I click on it, I can first of all select the language that I want the information to be displayed in. And then currently a few languages are supported. So we have Norwegian, we have Finnish, we have Swedish, German, English, and Danish. We can also define the size of the dashboard, and then depending on your screen size, it might be more readable or less. We can also define its opacity, and then if we want to completely turn it off, we just move the opacity slider all the way to 0, and then it's going to disappear. By default, it's displayed around 200 points. A general tip over here, if you want to set the value of any of these sliders to be exact, you can just double click on it, and then you can say what is the current value, and you just type it in this little window that pops up and hit OK, and it's going to set it. What you can also do, if I click this option part close and then open the modules over here, I have individual control over which categories of KPIs are going to be presented to me on the screen. So if I turn off the water category, it's going to disappear. Green, heat and microclimate, economics, and green factor is actually only visible when we have green on. So let's have our green over here, and then green factor score can also be individually turned on and off. The advantage of that is that sometimes we just want to ignore certain parts of calculations. They don't really have any effect on speed, it's more or interactivity. The only one that does is green factor. It actually slows the user experience down in a noticeable way. So sometimes I just like to turn it off if it's not the main focus of the drawing. Keep working with it, and then I'll just turn it on again for the final export. And so these are the modules over here. As I mentioned in the previous video, some of these Kpi bars over here, if we click on them, they will twirl open and show me some additional information that is a subcategory of the one that we have over here. And so feel free to click on these and then explore and see which one actually have more information hiding below it. Under the graphics category, we have the first two parts, they actually are related to the dashboard over here, and you can see it's a so-called heads-up display, right? So it's on top of the model. So if it gets in the way, just turn the opacity off, and then it will disappear. You can bring it back on. Whereas the last part, the graphics options tab, it actually targets the display of the components. So here I can change the texture scale essentially of the graphics that I'm seeing as well. And then the line weight is targeting only the buildings component. So if I were to introduce it to the drawing, so I'll put another rectangle over here, I'll go back to our buildings components, and I'll enable both of these. Right now, what happens is that the component crashed because it's telling us, well, there's no buildings set. So what we need to do is we need to say, let's reference one curve, and then immediately we have this building that has been created over here. And let's get back to our display settings, graphics settings of the engine component. If we make the line weight here, you can see that it's getting thicker or completely can be turned off. And what do these lines represent? If I go back to the buildings, under options, I can see that it's actually the number of levels that we have defined in this particular building. So this is how you would operate the control, the dashboard and its display. Also, what are the graphics properties of the actual model.